What is up, folks, and welcome back to the Vegas Confessions podcast, episode 82. And today we have a special interview lined up. I put on social media that I'd have to hold off a week because, our interview timing didn't line up right. But we got it done last night, and I figured why not get it out? So let's do it. So today's special guest is my buddy Alex, who is actually, funny enough, from the same hometown I'm from, same age, same backstory pretty much, so I'm pretty envious of this guy, and I tell him this in the interview. So a little background about Alex. He's a VIP chauffeur and limousine driver in Las Vegas. He's been there now about 10 years. The guy was really down to earth. Let me just say this guy was perfect for the show. Let's just say he took day trips to Vegas and went home in the same day from Fresno, where we're actually from, right? Psycho. 7-hour drive each way. Talk about a perfect person to have on the show, right? So throughout this interview, we cover a lot of Vegas, we cover the industry, and we cover a lot about himself. In this episode, he's going to share some huge tips in Vegas. He's going to give us some recommendations on spots to visit, and you'll hear some spots that we know very well. And some of my favorite parts, he even gives us some of the recommendations of places to check out off the beaten path. So I was really thankful for that. And throughout this interview, you will also catch his dedication that he has for this type of career and just the type of person that he is. Let's just say the gentleman hasn't taken a vacation since he's gotten to Vegas. Also, another really cool part of this is he also gave us a direct connection to him. So if you guys want to use him for one of your future trips, because I know just by you guys hearing the backstory and his dedication to this industry, you guys are going to fall in love with him. And again, throughout this interview, you will hear why are some of the benefits of using his service and how he differentiates himself from anybody else in the industry. I know you guys are going to enjoy this interview. And again, we did do this over a Facebook audio, so there's a little feedback in the recording. But most of all, I got his stuff cleared up to where you can hear him perfectly. So let's enjoy this, guys. And again, don't be afraid to reach out.
Hey there, everyone. This is Matt Bridger, and you are listening to the Vegas Confessions podcast.
Didn't we go to my favorite dive bar before that? We went to Double Down.
Double Down Saloon. Yeah, we had some ash juice.
I am all about Eskin. Yeah, baby.
You guys need to go check that room. There's like a dead guy in the bed. And the lady at the counter says, "Well, we'll call housekeeping." Like, housekeeping?
Jay's never met an asshole he didn't like. Shout out to the guy at third base at the blackjack table I was at last, who was obviously trying to keep a high-low count, but was mouthing the numbers as the cards were being turned over.
Be careful what you say, because we can have you whacked.
Hey, I'm Nicky Firmich, and you're listening to the Vegas Confessions podcast.
Alrighty, guys. So as promised, I told you guys I had something lined up here pretty soon. I tried to get earlier this weekend, but one thing about this I am excited about is it's actually somebody who's in Las Vegas, and the backstory to everything and the way this all got set up is even wilder. So, you guys know me. Every time I go out to Vegas, I like to go out and meet people, chat with people, and, interact with all kinds of different people throughout different facilities that I end up at. Well, so doing the social networking stuff has always been big for me. You guys know I'm always on Twitter, now on Instagram and Facebook a little more, but for the most part, I try networking with all kinds of different people, and it's led to like different relationships where I go out to these places and meet random people and create these cool friendships and relationships, right? So check this one out. So as I do a lot of social media, I stumbled upon this gentleman who's, like I told you guys in the social media post this week that I had lined up. This gentleman is a VIP chauffeur and Las Vegas limousine driver. Now, I had stumbled across his post across social media when he was posting, in some of the Vegas groups that I'm in. And I would see all these people post about raving reviews about how they met this guy Alex, who was always, picking them up, took them to the airport, made their trip special. And I was like, really? And it wasn't just one person, it was multiple people. Then it started including some of our friends. And one of my recent trips, I tried to set up an interview with Alex, who was just swamped with work. So I was like, you know what? This is perfect, because I would love to have you come on in the future. And here we are. Alex, thank you so much, dude, for spending some time with me and just sit here and chat. We chatted a little bit yesterday, and it was fun, and I was like, God, I can't wait to just chat with this guy.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. It's great that we got a chance to connect for sure.
Dude, I think it's cool what you're doing. So let me give everybody the real backstory to everything. So I see everybody posting on social media and what you're doing. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I envy you in many ways because the backstory to everything is neat, but what you're doing is even cooler. So like when I see what you're doing, I'm like, wow, this is neat. I gotta talk to this dude. So the backstory is cool because as I reached out to Alex one day, we started chatting back and forth. And, long story short, after setting stuff up, he messages me and he's like, hey, you're from Fresno? And
Yeah.
Alex is apparently from Fresno as well, the same hometown. And lo behold, this guy's in Vegas, the place that I fantasize about and dream of moving to, right? He's in Vegas and has been there the last 10 years and is working there day in and day out and creating these awesome relationships with people who come into Vegas on the daily. So I was like, you know what? I'm definitely talking to Alex because this is going to be a really cool interview to set up. I can't wait to chat with you and get some of your stories, man. But how small of a world is that we are from the same exact location?
It is pretty crazy, you know. You know how I knew is a funny story. Like, you had messaged me, and I looked up your channel or your page,
Okay.
and then I kind of looked at your bio and it said Fresno, and I was like, no way, Fresno. And it's funny because Fresno people, it's a tight knit group. It's a small back then it's a small city,
Yes.
and so whenever I pick people up from Fresno, like that's the first thing I say. Like, if they coming from Allegiant,
Uh-huh.
I say, "You from Fresno?" And like, "Yeah, I'm from Fresno." And tell them straight up, I'm class of '05, Close West. And I've actually picked up people that we went to the same high school with, but they didn't recognize me because I
Yeah.
look totally different now.
Yeah.
Back then, I was like 200 pounds. I was a huge kid.
Okay.
Thanks to like pizza, but
Yeah, yeah, of course.
but yeah, it's just interesting, how small. The one thing about this job is you get to meet people from all over,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you do find those people are from your hometown, it's just that much special.
Yeah, well, and it's neat because, like you said, you meet people every single day from all over, and that's what I find interesting in like all the social media posts is when people post about you, they're like, "Oh, guess who picked us up? Look who's helping us take our bags to our room," and you're there taking their luggage, posing for pictures, and they get the
Yeah.
family shots in front of the limousines, which is always a
Hmm.
cool, memorable experience. But that's one thing I wanted to have you come on and chat about is, do you realize yourself of how big of a part of the trip you are for a lot of people's experience? You're the first person they see to the last person they see. Like, that's got to be something really special to be a part of.
Yeah, so I've been doing this job for quite some time,
Yeah.
almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, I didn't really know what I was doing. They kind of threw the keys at me and said, "Hey, go make us money."
Yes.
And so, I just watched. First thing I did was I went to the airport. My first pickup, I found the sharpest looking dude. Just kind of eavesdropped on his conversation,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, that guy that I was listening to is some guy. He's one of the best, Ty Sweet. And
Nice.
I just picked up on everything that he was doing, and I was like, man, this is what I need to do to get that level. And the thing that he stood out for me was just the way how he approached people and how much he actually cared.
Yeah.
And so I took that, and then I made it my own thing. And what it comes down to is, like, people just they want to be appreciated for spending their money.
Yeah.
They're coming here to spend money regardless, but if they spend it with you, you got to go that extra mile to make sure it was worth their time. So it's important. When I first meet someone, that first 10 seconds that you make eye contact with them and they see you
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And from there, you continue the conversation. You want to find out, who they are, because you really only have so much time.
Yeah.
And I think I got pretty good at that, just making people feel comfortable. And, they, despite, my age, I look kind of young, I can speak to anybody, doesn't matter what age range, and we connect very quickly. So, I think just having the ability, what I've learned over the years, how to talk to people has, just, been what's worked for me, I guess.
Now, when you initially went out to Vegas, did you move there purposely for this type of work, or was it just family, or how'd you end up there?
So, back in after I graduated high school, I started working. I didn't really want to do college,
Yeah.
but I started working some odd jobs, and they weren't really paying much. And I've worked at McDonald's. I worked in a chicken factory. I've done all sorts of stuff that my parents didn't really like me doing, but I wanted to make it on my own. That's kind of what was important to me. So. Wasn't doing really too well, and then I went back to college. That my parents had talked me into it, and to doing hospitality management. That was
Okay.
something I was really interested in. But that all started because on my 21st birthday, I came out to Vegas, and I won a little mini jackpot, and it kind of excited me. And then I was like, "Hey, man, this place is pretty cool." So, so then that became a kind of a thing where I would go at least twice a month.
Okay.
I'd drive up from Fresno. It's like a 6-7 hour
6 hour,
drive,
yeah.
and I would get no sleep, just drive straight up there, and then hang out, and then come straight back. Then the same night, after I lost all my money.
In the same night?
Yeah,
Oh my
I saved just enough for gas. I came back, with my tail behind my leg back home. And, just work and repeat. And then, I felt like that place, it brought me like energy and life.
Yeah.
So, and it was something that, I wasn't really used to. So, before I made the move out there, I needed to save some money. So I worked as a waiter. And then I finally had enough money to go out there and support myself. But I came at a very bad time. I got there around 2008. So, that was during the recession,
yeah.
or, post-recession. And there was literally no jobs out there. So, I was, again, back to working odd jobs, just making enough to get by and pay the rent. And, I was looking at everything, and I just I kind of got stuck there pretty much. I couldn't go back home because then all my friends would tell me like, "Hey, I told you to make it." And
Right.
so I was in the thought like I had to do something, and that's kind of pretty much how it all started.
Okay, so since we're talking about the start, and I do want to mention how perfect you are for this podcast, because that's total degen mode. To not only one drive out there, but drive back in the same day.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother
that's when I
level.
was younger, and I had we had the energy to do it.
Respect, my friend, respect. So let's talk a little bit about the beginning when you got into the industry. What was that like? Were you nervous? And when did you start to become more comfortable? And what kind of adjustments did you make?
So it was really interesting. To continue what I was saying. So I was sick of work. I pretty much worked minimum wage jobs, and I ended up being a server at a sushi restaurant. But that restaurant went under.
Oh, okay.
So I had to find something. I had to look fast, and the only thing I said, hey, these taxi drivers, they make some good money. Like they get cash.
Yeah.
So I got my best suit, went out there, suit and tie, went into the office, and I'm like, hey, I seen a for hire sign, you guys hiring for taxi drivers? And they're like, oh yeah, we're always hiring, we're looking for good drivers. And so they did an interview on the spot.
Okay.
And everything was cool. I was talking to the hiring manager, and she was glad. And then I kind of got a weird vibe off her, and it kind of seemed like they didn't want to hire me.
Oh, really?
And I was starting to think maybe I'm too overqualified for being a taxi driver. And, so they, long story short, she told me, they're not going to hire me for a taxi. And I was like, okay, but we'll hire you for a limo if you're interested. I'm like, shoot, I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah.
I was like, sign me up. And so I got I did my background checks, drug tests, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a while to get started. About, I would say, the whole process of getting through that took about 3-4 months. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was eating McDonald's double cheeseburgers with eating the meat on the inside one day and eating peanut butter and McDonald's buns on the next day, just so I could get by, man. Times were tough.
Yeah.
I've been there, I know what it's like to have nothing. So, but I stuck with it. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how it got started, just getting into the industry. And then, yeah, my first day on there, I followed, the best guy I could find at the airport, just kind of eavesdropped on him. And, he just stood out from everybody. You could tell. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain people, they have an aura.
Yeah.
You can tell about them. And so, I just stuck it out, while I was there scouting. And, I just picked up all the good things that he did. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. I can use that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I kind of shifted from being, what is the right word? I was antisocial.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
I didn't really know how to talk to people. And then I kind of picked up from other people what worked. And then I just built it on my own in a sense. So.
Really? Okay. And that's funny because we just talked a little bit before the recording about, how we were both a little antisocial, and Vegas has done it for me too, especially with doing the podcast and meeting so many people. Like, it's hard to get me to shut up now. But beforehand, before meeting my wife, like, I was the same way, buried to myself. I don't care what you're doing and what you got going on. I'm going to worry about me, and that's all I'm worried about. But yeah, totally makes sense. So now that you've been in Vegas for about 10 years, what would you say some of the pros and cons are to living in Las Vegas? Especially for me, somebody who's on the outside looking in, trying to get in, you know what I mean?
So, out here, the cost of living is cheap compared to somewhere like LA or New York.
Right.
And that's definitely one of the pros. The con about that is the as far as jobs, it's very specific. You have to work in the industry.
Yeah.
And, there's construction jobs. That's a good one. We're growing very quickly.
Right.
But if you don't have a direction, you can get easily lost. And, if you get sucked into, most people, they come here for 3-4 days, they Vegas out, and they go back to the real life in a sense. And, but the people who actually move here, they're stuck. So I see it all the time. I'll meet someone 1 year and they're literally gone the next, and they've gone back home.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody, that's for sure. And, if you don't control yourself in a sense, you got to have a lot of discipline to live here. You will get lost because there's so many distractions. So I would say those are the two biggest pros and cons.
Okay.
And then, of course, everything's open 24 hours.
Right.
So, I can do my grocery shopping at 2 a.m. too. There's a lot of stuff, but, those are the ones that stick out to me.
So now going back into the guest experience when they first get in town, one thing I noticed you do differently, just from, the different posts and the way you let people know, hey, I'm going to take care of you before we even get to your main stop. Can you let the listeners know a little more of, what some of your routines are in the daily and how you take care of the guest even before they get to their hotel?
So the service that I used to work for a company called Presidential, and the service we provided was meeting the passengers at the baggage carousel, greeting them, having a conversation, and then assisting them with their luggage. Yeah. And then we would direct them to the limo downstairs, and then take pictures so they can create some memories. And we also provided complimentary champagne. So we grab it at the liquor store. Currently we used to carry it on us, but because of COVID, they've gone a little strict.
Oh,
So
okay.
we actually stop at the liquor store to pick it up, and then while they're there, if they want to, they can step out and then go in the store and buy some supplies, save a little money,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, we do offer options to go to dispensary if that's something they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the remainder of the time, we can cruise the strip, take pictures at the sign, and then eventually get headed off to the hotel.
And that's like the Vegas thing to do, right? As soon as you get in town, or even if you've never been to Vegas or you haven't got it
Mhm.
off your bucket list, is go take a picture at the Vegas sign. Like that's a very popular thing.
Yeah, and that if you have the right driver, he can at the Vegas sign. There's usually a line there,
Yeah.
and that line goes
Mm-hmm.
out all the way into the parking lot. But you can actually bypass that. There's no actual rule that you have to stand in that line.
Right.
You can go up to the side and then do a side shot, without, and you won't be blocking anybody's, picture. And then you'll be right there, and you can do it in like 5 minutes tops.
Yeah. 100%. And that was a big one that, some Vegas locals always say in like some of their YouTube videos, hey, you don't have to wait in the line. Just go take your picture, bam, back in
Yeah,
your car and take off. That's
yeah.
awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's awesome. So here's an awesome one I wanted to ask. This one was asked by one of the listeners. What's some of the weirdest requests you've been asked to take somebody somewhere? Because I know what it's
Uh-huh.
like, because it's one thing to cruise the Vegas Strip in a limo and arrive to a hotel in a nice limo, but then I
Uh-huh.
have friends that take me in a nice limo to places like dive bars like Double Down
Sure.
Saloon and Dino's. So, I mean, what are some of the craziest requests you've ever had?
For the most part, my I haven't had too many.
Okay.
I mean, well, there was one back when I first started. They told me to take them to the chicken ranch,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's, don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, right. Of course.
But yeah, that was actually, I had no idea what that was, and I'm like, chicken ranch? What are you talking about? Chicken ranch is. And yeah, you can look that one up if you don't know what that is. But
I'm pretty sure most listeners would know exactly what that is.
yeah, and I thought I was heading to the desert. I thought I was gonna get shot or something once I was heading out there. But
So you just threw it on
I,
the GPS and went?
yeah, I just went. I hope I had enough gas. That's about it. I had another one is we actually did. There's certain areas in the desert, they have like designated shooting ranges,
Oh, okay.
and they don't look very official. It's just like you go around a corner, around a hill, follow the dirt road, and all of a sudden you see like targets and people shooting off automatic guns. That one I thought I was really gonna die because I was like, oh my god, all I hear is gunfire in the background, and I'm going off with no signals or nothing. I'm like, oh my god, this
Oh
is it.
man. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Being that I see in a lot of the different pictures that you have, and I've been sharing some of the photos and stuff this week. What is
Uh-huh.
some of your favorite vehicles to drive? Because I see you drive all types of vehicles.
So my personal favorite is the Escalade limo.
The pink
It's
one or the black one?
uh, well, pink one I'll tell you is a great car because it gets a lot of traction.
Yes.
And the AC works good in that one for the most part. Um, but yeah, those Escalades, they have great road presence. The seating arrangement's cool and it's not too like compacted.
Okay.
The only thing is I don't have that vehicle anymore because I started my own service,
Right.
and now I've moved on. The Chrysler 300s, they're very comfortable rides too.
Yeah.
That would be my second. And of course, we're getting the Sprinter executive style, like, four captain's chairs inside. And I think that one, once people get in it, they'll be pleasantly surprised. It's actually a really nice car.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, because I've seen from a lot of your different posts, a lot of the different vehicles, and I'm like, man, there's the buses, there's the different type, like you said, the Escalades, there's the
Yeah.
300s. It's just a variety, and I'm like, I want to make sure I ask him which one he enjoys to drive the most.
Yeah, definitely the Escalade. The 12 passenger version is probably the best one. People seem to enjoy it the most. Yeah, it's each one has its like pros and cons
Right.
for the style.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about some of the connections you've made doing this type of work?
So, and the great thing about this job is it never gets old
Mm-hmm.
because you meet literally every client is someone different. So, it's always new, it's always fresh, and I mean, if you love the job, it never gets old, to be
Right.
honest. But there is like a specific clientele that, they only take limos. So I have met people, who are a little bit affluent, and
Yeah.
they're cool too. They're most of the time they're down to earth as long as you talk to them, straightforward.
Right.
It's kind of funny, the VIPs, people we consider VIPs, I guess high rollers.
Yeah.
Um, they actually don't like being finessed. They like you to talk to them straight,
Yeah.
real. That's what they want because their whole life they've
That's what
been,
they do.
people are sucking up to them.
Yeah.
And as soon as you talk straight to them and just kind of try to get some type of conversation going, they do appreciate it. So
Isn't that
um,
funny? Isn't that
it
funny? Those little
is,
things.
yeah, it's very interesting dynamics. And I don't know what it is, but people seem to open up more to drivers. I guess maybe because they don't plan to see them again, but you hear all their dirty stories and secrets.
Interesting.
Yeah, but more so or less, my favorite, I guess you could say, type of clients is just people who are here to have a good time.
Yeah.
They just they get the limo. They expect to drink in it and just listen to good music and enjoy themselves. And my job is easy. I just drive nice and slow,
Yeah.
get them safely there, and make sure I take them where they want to.
Yeah.
And they usually always appreciate it. Those people are. It's kind of funny. They're the better tippers
Yeah.
more so than high rollers.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. So let's talk a little bit about the reason you stood out to me. So again, I came across you on social media. Can you talk a little bit about how big social media is a difference maker nowadays and how using it to your advantage and how you've been doing it recently?
So, I have never been like huge on social media.
Yeah.
It's always been usually mostly like Facebook. I do have Instagram, but I don't really use it.
Mm-hmm.
So Facebook is mostly kept it to a close circle of family and friends, and then I just didn't want people to know my business too much, and I just kind of kept it that way.
Right.
But what had happened was COVID. So
Oh, okay.
COVID really messed everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my regular clients stopped coming to Vegas, because this the initial phase, people were scared.
Right.
They didn't know what was going on. The news was scaring them. And so, if you were here during that time, Vegas was dead.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody.
Ghost town.
Like you could look up the strip and down and you wouldn't see a car at some some times of the day, which is pretty crazy. Because of COVID, so I guess it's a blessing in disguise, not really, but I kind of went out of the box, and a friend of mine actually led me on to this Facebook group called We Love Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of groups out there.
Right.
Every group is a little bit different, but this group was like nicely moderated, it wasn't too like raunchy. So I said, hey, why not? I'm gonna just post my service on there to see what happens.
Yeah.
Even though I knew you're not supposed to do it, I still did it anyways. And I was like, hopefully they're too busy to not see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just sneak one by. And so I posted like my first one. I post pictures, detailed the service information.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like I've been doing this for so long. A lot of those people in that group already knew who I was.
Right.
And so they, pointed me out already. And, they kind of commented, oh, yeah, we used Alex, whatever. We were here. he picked us up and they left a nice little comment. And because people kind of already had a kind of a rapport with some people already, they trusted me in a sense. And so that one post brought me, initially like 50 new clients,
Right.
which was pretty crazy because, I'm used to the people I deal with, I do have regulars, but the rides I get is mostly through the company. And so you don't really know who they are. Or you can't build a base, and you have to kind of, you just have to assume, they're nice people, whatever. So I posted on there, and a day or two later, my post got taken down. I was like, oh, they caught up with me. They didn't ban me yet, but they gave me a warning. It said, you cannot post on the group or guidelines, blah, 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 blah. So I cooled off. I gave it another week, and I said, all right, I'm going to try to sneak it by again. So I posted again, and again, people were very responsive and whatever. The following day, they banned me. They're like, we gave you warning, and then now you're gone. I was like, well, hey, that was cool. It lasted a good couple weeks, I really felt like that was the missing link to everything, which is social media.
Yeah.
And so I was keep thinking to myself, all right, I can't lose this. I need to find a way to make this work. So the guy who led me onto the group, he said, hey, I know the admin, Matthew.
Yeah.
And he said, let me talk to him and, kind of tell him, you're not a bad guy. You're not, trying to scam anybody. You're just trying to offer your service and help out people, be more aware that there's more ways to get around than taxi and Uber.
Right.
And so he's like, okay, he got back to me and he's like, yeah, I'm talking to him. We'll see how it goes. Then I was like, you know what? I don't know what's going to make this work. Tell him whenever he comes to Vegas, I'm going to give him a free ride.
Yeah, nice.
And then he was like, next thing you know, okay, I'm unbanned.
Deal.
Yeah, deal. A lot of these groups, they're not really trying to monetize it. They're just there for, to give people help and just to build a community, which is great because it does keep away the riffraff. And, that's the last thing you need on your groups is just people posting, nonsense. So, so I chatted with Matthew through Instagram, and I was like, hey, whenever they open that border up, I'm the guy that's going to bring you, introduce you to Vegas, and you can do your whole vlogging, and we'll make a whole thing about it. And he also had a meetup, the donut bar meetup. I'm not sure if you know about that, but
Yes.
so I said, hey, I got a pink limo. I know they got pink donuts. Let me do that for you too. So, everything, it worked out great. So, I got back on the group. He allowed me to post. I'm going to tell you this social media thing, if you do the right way, it's a total game changer. People, especially Facebook, it's very like a community, kind of like YouTube, but in a sense, like if you build the right base, it can take you anywhere. And I think that all started with YouTubers, right? Vloggers. You build up your
following,
your following, and now you have support. So nowadays it's pretty crazy what this has turned into, and it really is a blessing because it broke me free and gave me the option to leave presidential. And presidential, I wasn't really making too much from them off the salary or hourly. They weren't really paying. They paid us pretty much minimum wage, so we had to go out there and in a sense provide such amazing service that we would get a tip. And that was our livelihood. So I think that's where I got it from, is just that hunger to just be better and better and figure out better ways to make people happier and just make their experience more memorable. And, I guess to me, it feels like I'm just doing me. I'm not doing too much. I guess that's just me. But people do seem to appreciate it, and they kind of differentiate myself from others who just punch in, clock out, as opposed to me who's there, to serve you. And I think that's kind of the turning point for everything. So.
Well, and so you mentioned turning point.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think it's crucial. We mentioned two things. I'll talk about the vlogger stuff in a minute, but first I want to mention is you mentioned how you put your service out there for people to just pick up on. And if they were interested, they can reach out and you got new people and stuff. But what I find interesting nowadays is the prices and the different prices in Ubers and Lyfts and stuff, they're already super high, especially with the surge pricings and stuff that they got going on right now. So I was thinking, I'm like, it makes perfect sense, especially if a group's coming into Vegas or even more than two, three, four people. Prices that you guys service people, it's not that much more, and they're getting a whole next level of experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most people, people who take limos, they take limos. But a lot of people don't know about the service.
Yeah.
And if you come in a group of, let's say, 6 people, and you divide the cost out between 6 people, it comes roughly about, I would say, $15 to $20 a person.
Yeah.
Which is the same price as a one-way shuttle, like from the airport, which would take you sometimes an hour to just get to your hotels for all the stops.
Right.
So it's really, there's a lot of value in limo service because you're not just paying for A to B, you're paying for an hour of service. Spend an hour in a cab, your bill's going to be way over $100, right?
Right.
But you get a flat rate, plus the champagne, plus everything that, that brings with a chauffeur, it's actually a great deal. The price point initially, the sticker shock may seem high, but when you really break it down, it's actually one of the best deals you can get in Vegas.
Well, and it's something like I mentioned earlier, like just cruising on the Vegas Strip in a limo, or just cruising, downtown, hitting the big streets at night and seeing it all, all the neon and stuff. In a limo is a whole different experience. Like it's just
really
next
is.
level, and it is. It's I've mentioned on the show how the helicopter experience is a must. There's the neon museum is a must. Like driving on the Strip in a limo is probably up there for me because it's a really cool experience.
What better way to start off your trip, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get greeted when you get to the airport. Some people come here a lot. Some people it's their first time, and to have someone there for you to guide you and, start you off the right way. It's really priceless. And what I feel is like a lot of people, when they start things off the right way, their whole trip just goes the right way with the right attitude. And they come back, they may have lost money, they may have won, but they feel satisfied with, what they had done.
Right.
So
The
I think
experience
it's
was
super,
worth it.
yeah. I think it's super important. It's the way you get started into things and then finishing right.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on is you mentioned, you networked with the social media stuff and it led to where it led, and you networked with Matthew, and now you guys have a thing that goes on. And if a lot of the listeners don't know what we're talking about, Matthew is the Say Hi to Matthew YouTube channel on YouTube. He's a vlogger, one of the first Vegas vloggers to, come from Canada often and do the style that he does. And he's very, very nice. He's a friend of the show. And I almost made it out to his last trip, because I just gotten back from an 11-day trip in Vegas and I just couldn't squeeze more days in. So I'm like, no, I'm going home. But for the most part, really nice dude. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I saw that happen. I saw you take care of our buddy Michael from the Travelzork team, and just so many different friends. I mean, just so many. And I was like, how do all these people know Alex? And I've never crossed paths with Alex. And then when I hook up with you, we find out we're from the same place and pretty much very similar, especially with our stories and as much as we've been talking over the last day. So I was like, you know what? I definitely wanted to come on. And then when I saw you post recently, like I said, after I reached out, I'm like, oh, well, Alex is going on his own. Let's bring him on. And I wanted to talk about, how are you going to up your game to the next level now that, you've worked for the big corporations, you see how they don't, utilize small things like social media to their benefit. How do you plan to take that to the next level for Alex?
Well, the interesting thing about working for a big corporation,
Mm-hmm.
this the way I see it is they have lost sight of what really matters, and it's the clients. They
Yes.
see people as numbers, and I'm not just talking out of nowhere because I know what goes on in the back room,
Right.
but at the end of the day, they base everything how much money they bring in, how much it costs, this and that, and there's really no flexibility. And what it what had happened with the reason I had to leave is because they lost sight of that path.
Right.
And Presidential is a brand 20 plus years in the making, and we really had a core group of drivers, a lot of them over 10 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
25 years, and they built the brand, but they took that power away from us
Mm-hmm.
and started, too much micromanaging. And they didn't let us do our thing, which is what people loved about us.
Yeah.
And so I saw that. I said, hey, this isn't making any sense. We have to get this back. And what it did is brought an opportunity for smaller companies to break into the market again.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm off on my own, I really do think about what can I do to keep pushing? What
Yeah.
can I do to make this bigger? I mean, I'm okay right now. Like I have enough, work, and it's been a blessing to keep
Right.
myself busy. But there are times when somebody wants me to pick them up, but I already have a reservation,
Right.
and I have to decline it,
Mm-hmm.
which is, in a business sense, it sucks because you can't do it,
Right.
can't fulfill it, even though they really want it. It just doesn't work out. So things that I'm working on is I do have a select few of drivers,
Okay.
that I know their service is top notch.
Yeah.
It's comparable to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have their own lives too, so they can't really focus their whole life on driving,
Yeah.
and they got families. So what I want to do eventually is build a select few drivers who can be interchangeable with myself, and you would get the same excellent service,
Mm-hmm.
and have a team built, a company built off drivers.
Yeah.
And when you find my company, you would say, oh, it's Alex's company and his drivers, and the people he works with, they're all the best, and that those drivers have, they are vetted by Alex, and they have Alex's support and network to make them successful, and just have a better life. Because these a lot of I touched on the point already. The company that I worked for, when it came down to it, we were making minimum wage,
Right.
which is kind of sad after everything we do,
Mm-hmm.
and we became very tip dependent.
Right.
So it does build character. It makes you a little bit hungrier,
Yes.
but I do think that it puts stress on them, so they can lose that edge, and they can there's chances for them to not provide the best service because you're just so stressed all the time. So I think what I want to do is build a core group, pay them well,
Mm-hmm.
so they're happy, and then they can just have enjoy their work, and that will translate into even better service. I think that's one of the core things that I want to do as far as expanding. Other things, I actually started making name signs, like the old school ones, where they have
Yes.
your name printed on that, and that actually came from a suggestion from a client or someone on Facebook. They
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey," I actually asked, "Hey, I want to do something special for people." They said, "Hey, why don't you make a custom name sign?" And I was like, "Perfect, that's an
Yeah.
amazing idea." So I had reached out to a company. I hired them to build me a graphic, and I used that as a base to, it's like a blank, canvas, and I
Right.
put their name in the middle, which, I have to do myself. And I print it out, laminate it, and it looks really nice. People love it. they can put whatever name they want on it, even if it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I don't judge. But that those little extra things, it's what really sets you apart
Yep.
from the rest. Because anyone can get an iPad, anyone can change the name on the iPad, but if you take your time to do that extra stuff, it's really what sets you apart.
It's
I
funny
think.
because you mentioned little small things again, and it was something we mentioned earlier, and it's really neat because Vegas, even throughout interviews that I've done before, it's come up, and like you said earlier, you have to have discipline to live there. But not only that, Vegas is a very self-driven town. So if you're in the service industry, like service industry is big in Las Vegas. So leaving an impact on people is a really, really big deal. So yeah, those
I
small things are
totally
neat.
agree. It's the people who make it here. I wish Vegas was back to the old days where people knew you by your first name
Yeah.
and they greet you with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
And, I miss those days. Even if you're a nobody, just some random dude, every dollar they got, they appreciated. I think that's what we need to bring Vegas back to, is that old school vibe. Not Vegas trying to maximize every dollar out of you,
Yeah.
charging ridiculous prices, just, appreciating people again. And I think that's the business model I'm looking for, is, just to make people happy. Long story short.
That mindset and mentality is what makes a successful entrepreneur in any kind type of business, right? Like that's
For
the
sure.
mindset. So
For
you're
sure.
on the right path, man. That's exciting. So now that you're on your own, Alex, and I know that's got to be exciting, but can you talk a little bit about what are some of the packages and things that you're doing differently for people to experience? So for like first timers, what can they experience that you would recommend?
Well, a lot of people, they've been here
Mm-hmm.
lots of times, but their trip is kind of centered around, drinking, gambling, nightlife,
Yep.
stuff like that. But once you come here enough, what I noticed was people were trying to do more things outside of that.
Right.
And Vegas is great because there are options to do things outside of those three things.
Right.
So that's the great thing about what's about Vegas now, is they've opened up everything. You can go on a tour,
Mm-hmm.
you can do helicopter rides, you can go bungee jumping, you can do anything here. So I think what I'm seeing now is a lot of people just want to do some more stuff. And so I actually launched some tour packages through my partner, ETA Limos, and their program is called What's Next.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have everything laid out, like stuff you can, they know everything around town, so they laid it out very simply. We have this, and that, and this is the price. And if you're interested, we can provide the transportation and then to those events, and plus the cost of the package, whatever that business charges for. And we make it really simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're starting to see that happen. Even like first timers, of course, if you've never been here before, definitely you want to see the whole strip, but you're not really fond of walking a few miles.
Yeah.
You can definitely, get in a limo and use a full hour of cruising the strip and seeing everything. And that's something, some people like to do. Just it's the ease of everything. We can stop somewhere, take pictures. You can go inside, do the pictures also. Having a limo for the hour is just very easy, instead of having to take multiple Ubers, multiple this, and you can just knock everything out at the same time.
Nice. I like it. So when we were texting back and forth at the first initial session, you mentioned something really interesting to me that I don't think, you even caught, but I think I even asked you. I was like, wait a minute, what? So you mentioned that certain places throughout Las Vegas offer driver discounts for meals. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that works, and some of the different places that you go for a meal at a discount rate?
So yeah, there is some establishments that are very driver friendly. They offer us free ice. You can get free drinks if you bring customers. But as far as food, there was a place that was kind of like a hidden gem. It's not so hidden so much anymore. But pretty much nobody knows now about Ellis Island. And Ellis Island was great. Start your day. You can get steak and eggs and coffee for $5. Like, where do you get that anymore?
Right.
And that's the thing I miss about old Vegas is they didn't try to tax you on everything.
Right.
They would, incentivize you with deals and like foods and all this good stuff just for your business. It's kind of reversed now, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, Ellis Island is definitely the spot to go. I think for a certain time you can get steak and eggs for like $7. And it's actually a pretty good steak. It's not, some beef jerky.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's one of the better places. But yeah, just for drivers in general, we're all kind of familiar with places that do help drivers when they bring customers,
Nice.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. When you said that, I was like, really? I didn't know that. And go figure, Ellis Island is actually one of my home hotels when I'm in Vegas. I stay at two places, and it's always the Plaza and Ellis Island. So
Yep.
Ellis Island is always my spot, bro. So when you mentioned that, I was like, holy shit. You were like, yeah, I might actually be at Ellis Island and in the area. I'm like, wait a minute, why? You're like, oh, they do the driver discount. I was like, that's neat. I didn't even know that. So I was like, I got to make sure I ask about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of people find that place because they want to know where Tupac got shot.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's on that same corner
Yeah.
of Koval and Flamingo. And so, right there, it's kind of works hand in hand, I guess. I don't know.
So what would you say are some of your favorite places to check out in Las Vegas for, people coming into town? Maybe hidden gems that, pizza places, restaurants, bars, something that you may not think people know of that they should probably check out.
I'm a big steak fan. I love steak. I cook it all the time when I'm at home.
Okay.
But, a lot of these places have kind of blown up because, they were hidden gems at the time, and then everybody just started going there.
Yeah.
Because, the social media stuff, it really will take you somewhere.
Yeah.
So now Golden Steer is, they're busy. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Oscars is
Oscars,
definitely
okay.
a plus. There's a few off-strip restaurants and bars that people can go to that are, right now because of COVID, everything is closing around like 10.
Okay.
But certain like local places, they're open till like 1 or 2, and you can still get quality food. And one place I would definitely recommend is called Flowing Tide.
Okay.
It's a pub and bar. It's located a block over from the Orleans, and their food is amazing. Like, you would have never think that a place like this can make great food, but lo and behold, it's really good.
Okay.
So other places, you can, if you're not a Starbucks fan, you can definitely go to what's that place called? Dutch Bros.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely one of my favorites.
Okay.
Even though they kind of went the corporate route,
Right.
Just because they're so popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, those places definitely recommend kind of expanding. If you've been here enough, you definitely would try something new. Frank's Tiki Bar, I heard is popular now. I think that's kind of the trend. People are trying to get away from the big crowds and the loud music and trying to find the more unique places to, experience, the real Vegas, I guess.
And you're 100% speaking to the choir right now, especially on this podcast, because anybody who knows and listens to this show and watches the YouTube videos knows that I'm definitely out venturing out to different places, local spots. So I've been hitting up the Sam Towns, I've been hitting up the Longhorns, I've been hitting up these little spots. So I can go out and come back. I was just in Henderson at a place called Luciano's Bistro. I was
Sure.
all over the place this last trip just to make sure that, we don't get so focused on Vegas, the strip, and just downtown, but
Right.
actually go out and meet real people. And
Yeah.
it does exactly what it's doing right here with me and you, man. It creates a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and every time I go back, they're always like arms wide open. Hey, we'd love to have you guys come by. You know what I mean? So it's really
That's
neat
right.
that, I see what you're doing. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
asked. I wanted to make sure I asked that for sure. And so I'm definitely probably going to be checking out that place you just said, Flowing Tide, on my next trip for sure.
Yeah, that place. It's not in the best. It's kind of on the opposite corner of the Orleans.
Yeah.
Down a side street. You shouldn't walk down there during night, but it's one of those areas. But yeah, go in there. Once you go in, it's like totally. It's really decked out, really nice place. And key thing is they're open late.
Yeah.
Which is like late with good food, not like just microwave, cheese sticks or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a spot I try to go to if I have time.
Well, I appreciate the warning because I'm the type of person that likes to go to Jerry's Nugget at 2 a.m. So I'm that guy. So yes, thank you for the heads up, and I'm definitely now more interested. So,
I had funny story. I had a client. I don't know how they ended up at Jerry's Nugget or whatever, but they told me they walked. They walked from whatever downtown to Jerry's Nugget. I'm like,
no way.
You're lucky to be here because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some rough places, but that is one of them.
That's hilarious. That's a definition of a true gambler right there. Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's talk about living in a vacation destination, right? So now that you're in Vegas, what is your place to go to and get away?
I'll be honest with you. I haven't had a vacation since I've worked. As I've been just so busy. It's the weird thing about this job. Well, not weird, but interesting thing is that you have to be available when your clients are coming. So it doesn't, you can't be in this business if you're not about serving people.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to have a real vacation. Trying to find time.
Yeah.
But if I were to go somewhere, definitely Hawaii.
Okay.
Maybe Florida. It's interesting doing this job. You meet people from everywhere.
Yeah.
And the last thing they say is, if you're ever in my city, let me know. I'm like, I'm gonna hold you to that.
That's
If I
awesome.
come, you better put me in a nice place or something. I will hold you to your word.
That's neat. So you guys be careful if you invite Alex over.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really neat. I like that. Well, I'm sorry you haven't had a vacation, but I mean, in return, it's got to be neat and rewarding. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday. People do the same thing with me. Like I tell them all the time, they get that misconception of they're meeting somebody famous, right? Like that's always the weirdest thing. And so you mentioned that, you've been doing the social media thing, so you've been getting a lot more of a following and people are more on you. Now that I've been doing a little more of the YouTube stuff within the last year, same thing. Every time I'm going somewhere, no more people are saying hi and stuff. And that's the reward, right? And I find that fascinating because, like we said, in Vegas, we get all walks of life. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's probably been more misconstrued, if not, than most things. But it is a popular question that I've been asked a lot. And I think maybe you're probably one of the best persons to ask. So there's the thing about taking people and, taking them to clubs, strip clubs and stuff like that, and drivers getting kickback. Is that actually a thing?
It is.
It is. Okay.
So, there's a whole ecosystem built around that.
Yes.
And I think people get a little bit of the misconception that it's a bad thing.
Right.
Because, in a sense, as far as drivers go, yes, it does help us. I think that's the more important thing is people need to understand that most of the service industry people, they're not working for a wage, they're working for a tip.
Right.
And that's what really differentiates people
Yeah.
and the service levels is you notice the people who are out there hustling and working to get money rather than someone who just clocks in. And in a sense, people come out here, they plan to spend money, and understand some people, they're on a budget, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And no driver or nobody is going to refuse to take you to somewhere they're not going to get a kickback.
Right.
If you want to go to CVS, if you want to go to Walmart, if you're paying for the time, we're more than happy to take you there. But, as far as the places that do that service for drivers,
Yeah.
it's more of a convenience factor. Those places are very close to the strip. And, if, for example, somebody says, hey, we need to go to a liquor store, and I'll say, yeah, sure, there's one outside the airport, no problem. Take them there, in and out, straight to the hotel, make a left off Tropicana, and we're on our way.
Yeah.
And you're really just paying for convenience at that point. And a lot of people, they come here to spend money, and they understand there is, an ecosystem behind it, that as long as the driver is, making money, and, we all have to live at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's not unfair to ask, for drivers to do that, in my sense, because really a lot of drivers are making minimum wage, and so we do have to find a way to, support our own lives, in a sense.
Makes sense 100%. That's why I thought I'd ask, and I feel like
it's a tough question.
No, it really is.
It's what they're paying for is convenience at the end of the day.
Okay, I like it. Totally understandable. Now, let me ask you, what would be one of the more memorable rides you've given somebody, whether it be a celebrity or somebody that just stood out to you, whether it was a funny moment or whatever it may have been?
Well, I used to work, my company used to do a lot of red carpet stuff.
Okay.
And so, celebrities, there's nothing, at the end of the day, they're people just like us.
Yeah.
And, they project an image, but when they're in our car, we hear everything. And, they talk just like us. They think about the same things. They worry about the same issues, So they're really no different, other than people have, elevated them to a certain level of respect, I guess.
Yeah.
And, to be honest with you, a lot of the problems come from celebrities. They're very picky.
Yeah.
They have to have things a certain way, and it just rubs off bad on, someone who serviced them, because they don't, I guess they're used to the lifestyle, but they don't appreciate.
I was just going to say, appreciation's not there. Yeah.
No, that's definitely not. I mean, I won't mention names, but there are certain celebrities who have to have things a certain way, and it's just kind of mind-boggling. Like, it's just not normal. It's actually very weird.
And it's funny because you mentioned the little things, right? And it takes us right back to what we've been mentioning, the little things. So when you find certain celebrities and you're talking to them, like you said, and it's just a natural conversation, are they pretty similar to the high execs that come in, or the high rollers that just want to be talked to like a regular person?
Yeah. One of the best celebrities I've met, I was at the airport. We have what we call a Kelly curve, which is a walk-up.
Okay.
And so when we're not doing anything, we can stage at a certain area, and people who exit the airport can ask if they're interested in limo service, and we can take them, from the hotel very quickly. But I noticed one ride, it was a celebrity, well, not a celebrity, it was a musician, and it was Macklemore.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, I saw that post, actually. That's so funny.
Yeah, so it was interesting, like, I didn't know who he was, I just knew he was, like, I knew he was a celebrity, or like a musician. I just totally blanked out on his name.
Yeah.
I kind of acted like I knew it. So I loaded him in the car, and I let him know that there was an aux cord so he can play music. Okay. And then, lo and behold, he started playing music that he had sang before. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's this guy.
Nice.
Still couldn't remember the name because he was kind of up and coming at that point. And then I remember he was jamming out in the back, and he was recording himself, whatever. I seen it on his Instagram. And, normally don't really talk to people through while they're in the back because it's very hard to hear them. But he poked his head out through the divider, and he was recording me. I was like, and it kind of scared me for a second. I was like, oh crap! Like he was just like jamming out and recording himself, and then he pointed the camera at me. I was like, hey, you know. And then I don't know why I said this, but I said, "What's your name again?" The iconic sin of telling anybody famous, "Who are you again?" Like, it just came out of my mouth, and I could tell he was pissed. And he said, and then the next thing I heard was, "Oh, I'm Calvin Harris." Well, I knew he wasn't Calvin Harris, so I knew I had pissed him off at that point.
Yeah.
And you know, I was thinking like, you know, $100 tip, 200,000, whatever, and then he gave me a 20. Like, he was scrunging for cash. I was like, ah, crap, I fucked this up.
I do want to ask you, any tips you got to offer people that are coming into Vegas, especially right now with places closing early, or maybe a trip in the future? Any kind of tips or advice you would give them on what to expect in Vegas right now?
I would definitely, if you're a planner, book as soon as you can, months ahead if you can. It will save you a ton of money.
Yeah.
That's because what is happening right now is a lot of the airlines, they're overbooking, and so they have taken a lot of payment for, I don't know if this is true or not, but just my third person looking in, is the airlines are overbooking and they're giving an excuse that they don't have enough fuel. And, or it could be true, you know, the economy is kind of weird right now, but they are price gouging. You know, people are coming last minute, and then they're seeing people are willing to pay that price to get out here. So I think what they do is they kind of keep pushing people back and kind of delaying them just so they can keep that, you know, overcharge like 3x the normal price. So people who are locked in for a good rate, they're kind of seeing the bad end of it for some reason. You know, so I would definitely book ahead if you can as soon as possible. If you're lucky, you might book at a date where there's going to be a big event like a fight or a concert, and then you're already winning a few thousand right there. So you know, that's definitely one of my, as far as, you know, limo tip as a driver, what I know is just book ahead, because if you book last minute, you're definitely gonna pay a very big premium on that.
100%, and I'll add to that because I'm even hearing restaurants are now taking reservations at a lot of different places. So, you know, if you're expecting to walk up and, like Alex said, if you're a planner, this can ruin that. But there's places that were, you know, 30-minute waits are now, you know, 2-hour RSVP list reservations. So make sure you set yourself up for the future for success.
Yeah, you know, there's people talk about this $20 trick.
Oh yeah,
at the check-in
trick.
Yeah, the sandwich trick. You know, I think everyone's doing it right now. So $20 is probably not going to cut it anymore. it might have to be at 50, and you know, those people, you know, they're not making too much either. So whatever you can give them, you know, it definitely goes a long way. You know, I'm telling people, hey, you know, everyone's doing 20, might as well do 50 and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know,
you're gonna end up in the suites, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Alex, dude, thank you so much for spending some time coming on the podcast, sharing some of your stories, advice, tips. I mean, seriously, man, this is better than I thought it was going to be because, you know, initially when I first reached out, I was like, oh, well, the guy's from Fresno. I can run off of that. And then when I recently saw you post this week that you were going on your own, I'm like, this is probably definitely the best time to reach out and help and promote in any way possible. So, dude, I definitely want you to definitely let people know how they can get a hold of you. I know you said you're super limited to what you can take in as far as work right now because you have bookings through next year. But, I mean, definitely let people know, you know, of the services and some of the partnerships you got going and some of the stuff you got going forward to where they can potentially hook up with you in the future.
So if they want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook Messenger, or you can text me directly, 702 513-1867. Currently, I am operating and business partners with ETA Limos,
Okay.
and they have a fleet of Chryslers, Sprinters, party buses, and that company, they are licensed and insured, so you don't need to worry about that. They do have tour packages that they've worked on. If you check out their website, it's called What's Next LD, and they have everything listed very simply with a fixed price of tours, and then you can actually order that service from them, and they'll fulfill the rides. But yeah, they're very reliable and consistent, so it's definitely a good company to work with.
Nice. Again, Alex, the next time I'm in town, dude, definitely I'm reaching out for you to hopefully see if you got time to just have lunch, man. Lunch is on me, man. This was awesome. I look forward to meeting you in person. And seriously, I want to end this with, dude, keep up the great work with the networking. I love seeing people post about you, pictures with you, the service you've done. That makes me happy. And again, I just found out today and just announced on social media that we have a big group event coming up in December. And we have,
Awesome.
we have a shitload of people coming into town. So I'm sure I'm going to be back before December. But if not, I know I will be seeing you in December. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to see you before then.
Yeah, just hit me up, brother. And we'll figure something out. I definitely want to make another video like I did with Matt with other vloggers, and I think just because how we know each other, I think it'd be great. We'll hit it off again.
So any last mentions? Anybody you want to shout out or thank, just in general, before I let you go, my friend?
Yeah, brother. I'm just very thankful for how everything has turned out. It really is a blessing. Just have the support of the community in general. There's no way I can repay these people back. I just have to keep providing that same excellent service. And, I think this thing is going to grow into something pretty big. And what people can take away from is that they, them, choosing to use my service, they helped me create something and really put someone else in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
And, that I think is pretty in right now. People want people to do well and, just do better for themselves and try to find a way to support. And so, this whole Facebook group, we love Las Vegas. There's no way I can say enough things, but, I really do appreciate everyone that's had my back and given me the opportunity to just do it myself and, try to, I guess, control my own future in a sense.
No, I 100% agree. And I will add to that by just saying, I can see it as a person on the outside looking in, brother. You're super humble and you are passionate about what you do. And that's what makes the biggest difference in a lot of people in the service industry, right? So, I mean, that means a lot, but to want to make a difference and leave an impact on a person, that's going to make your service and what you have to offer that much more special, man. So just keep being you, brother. And I'm excited to see you grow. I'm happy to watch you move into this endeavor. And I'm excited to see the future for you because I know big things are coming for you, my friend.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think this is fun, man. This was funner than I expected. And again, you turned out even a cooler interview than I can ask for. And like I said, I always like to talk to people before we even start recording. But even yesterday, usually that takes like 5 minutes. We went for full 20 minutes because we just started talking. And that's the type of shit I love. You even told me, you're like, man, I'm a talker, so just beware. I'm like, so am I. So this is perfect. So awesome, brother. Dude, keep up the great work. Again, I'm planning to be there soon. I hope to see you soon. And until the next time we talk, man, cheers.
Cheers, brother.
How cool is that? Talk about the most random people to make connections with in Vegas, and here I am stumbling upon this gentleman. So I can't wait to get back and utilize his service and just meet him in person. And like I said, treat him to lunch for coming on the podcast. Again, if you guys want to reach out, you definitely know how now. And again, let him know how you heard of us. There's no special codes or anything. I just wanted to do this as an appreciation thing. Hey, you know what? He's somebody that's taken care of a bunch of our friends in the industry. why not promote him and put out his services out there for everybody out there to take advantage and get to meet the guy in person. Talk about a cool dude. So guys, definitely reach out to him if you guys want to use him on your next trip. And I got some plans for our trip in December with him, so stay tuned for that one. Again, guys, if you're enjoying these interviews, make sure you guys check out the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media because all of this stuff will be on there. The videos and stuff, when we get out to Vegas, all of that stuff goes on YouTube. And all of these new people I meet and connections I hook up with, they all come up on the videos. So keep an eye out for those as well. Again, I got to give a big, huge shout out to all of our Patreon members and supporters of the podcast and YouTube channel here. Eric Rosenthal, David Sowell, Taylor Jew, Neil Macedo, Rodney Kelly, Michael Traeger, Scott Jarvis, Travis Atherton, and our newest Patreon member, Mikey Zatara. Thank you, brother. You guys, thank you very much. You guys are awesome. And with that being said, folks, again, thank you for listening, and I will catch up with you guys next week. Cheers.